It's Markota.
Okay, so
Martina Markota.
Martina Markota. That has a nice kind of flow to it. Um,
Yeah, alliteration.
yeah, I know. I'm a big fan of alliteration. So I saw your website yesterday, and I have to say I think there's this amazing thing where conservative women just happen to be the most beautiful women there are
I know,
somehow.
right?
We have to do some science on this
I
and
know.
see
I
if
mean, how
there's.
exciting will it be when if the Trump family is in office and how beautiful the first family will be.
I see this thing where there's like this weird, with the whole, because now race is a big issue out of nowhere, it seems like, for people,
I know.
we're
The
both,
past 5 years,
y-
it's like
yeah.
years.
But I also look into a lot of the transhumanism stuff and, transgender stuff becoming big. It's
Yeah.
very like Nazi Germany all over again. And people don't really pick up on that sort of pseudo eugenics aspect going on. But we at least can rest assured that the beautiful genes of conservative women will be passed along
Well, hopefully,
through.
as long as we procreate. I mean, I guess that's the good thing about being conservative. If we can find someone else, we do believe in traditional
Yeah, yeah, the
principles.
traditional family values and
Yeah.
everything like that. It was funny. I got into a argument online the other day, even about gay marriage and stuff, and I was just sort of being like, I'm for civil unions. I'm not really for the marriage thing because you're like redefining a religious institution. and
Exactly.
and it was funny though because I had this person who's like a Mexican transgender and everything just be like, that was the most intelligent, scholarly, gentlemanly burn you could ever give to someone. Because this person was like not saying why they felt it should be for everyone or anything. They were just taking what I would say, kind of, putting it into bullet points and like extracting a line of logic from that and being like, well, the logic from what you're saying is that people shouldn't be allowed to get married until they
Right.
have kids. And I'm
Right.
like,
Well, that's that funny language that the left kind of play is like, so you're saying you're a bigot and a racist, right? It's like,
oh, of
no, it's
course.
not really what I said. I just said that like, if you're not into religion, why do you care about like the marriage? Okay, civil union, sure, but like it's really kind of a religious thing. If you
Yeah.
have religion,
And then you bring up the whole, well, you know why the government got into it in the first place, right? Because guys were traveling around and they die and two women would be like, I get the assets. Like
right.
it was over problems that just aren't problems
Well, there's
anymore.
also like how much do you want the government involved in your business? And it's like if you want them involved in your marriage and in your love life and in your uterus or whatever, then you're asking for them to be directly involved. We don't really want the government involved in
Involved in
pretty
anything.
much anything,
I
as
know.
little as possible. So that's why we're against a lot of that stuff. It's not because we want to be bigoted. It's like, no, man, you don't want the government involved in that shit. Trust me.
Yeah. And it's
You
so
don't want it.
funny with that stuff because like 10 years ago I would have never have thought. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, because again, when you're just hear what the liberals think of these groups, it's just, oh well, that's a bunch of angry racists who go around hating everyone. And then it's like, I think Republicans though have taken this sort of sharp libertarian curve where libertarians are getting really kind of off and liberal, because I see like some of them and they
Oh.
really lose me at this open borders stuff
Oh,
where.
I know. I agree with you. I attended a libertarian meeting last October and met Gary Johnson and everything, shook his hand, and I kind of started to realize more and more that they're a little more liberal than I am.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there's a place for rules and law and order. I'm not for this whole chaos bit. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
because it's
yeah,
it's not even chaos. That's the thing. They go around acting like they want to tear everything down, and then they just want this sort of superstructure of like Marxism and everything else. And I don't know. It's so hard to even communicate with half these people nowadays because it's like you're just reciting. I know it's a theory, like how when I was texting you the other night saying, some things you can talk about, and because they're so locked into this worldview, you can talk over their heads, and they just won't even know. They don't know that their whole interpretation of reality is based on an old German man's theory.
Yeah, I mean, it's like having eyewitnesses. You can have two eyewitnesses, and they're telling you two different stories. It's how can two people see reality in completely different ways? It's mind-boggling. It's really, really mind-boggling. It's tough out here, and that's why in my art, my blog, I wrote about us being the counterculture, because it is now a time where the mainstream everything, culture, media, news, everything is a liberal bias, and to have any sort of traditionalism or conservative or believe in capitalism or any of that is the counterculture. We're a minority, and you know what? We're fucking cool, dude. It's so lame hearing their lame ass shit all the time. The same stupid things that don't make sense. It's over. Come on, guys.
Well, the things that piss me off is like them, the raining on everyone's parade thing. They're like, oh, the Avengers movie came out. Why doesn't Captain America have a boyfriend? Like, come on. Oh, there's a Black Iron Girl now, and they did a thing where they were like, oh, who should play it? And then immediately it's like, those are light-skinned black girls. Black isn't black enough. And it's like...
I know. I've seen that personally.
You people are never happy. Never happy.
It's crazy.
It's like negotiating with terrorists. It really is. You just give them an inch and they'll want the mile. It's so nuts. But yeah, like I was saying with the Marxism thing, it amazes me because these people will be like, oh, we have to take down the white supremacy, this, and that. And it's like your whole ideology is an old white man's theory. And
it's a white man's theory who failed, and they tried to figure out why did it fail. Oh, well, they have too much religion and family unit, and let's break that down, and maybe we'll get them this time. And
it's working. It's working.
So, thanks, critical theory.
Yeah. What's your take on Milwaukee?
I haven't been following too much because I went the past few days upstate to visit my mom for her birthday, and when I go into the country, I tune out.
Disconnect. It's always needed.
Yeah, so I've kind of been, I just got back late last night, and I'm like, all right, what's going on? Let me go on my YouTube and see my sources.
And that's the other thing. Nowadays, have you noticed everything kind of accelerating? Like, I mean, the news cycles, but even the little things just becoming huge things, and it's but
I mean, I do know that it was the same type of rioting and things going on during any sort of police type shooting involved with a young black person, but I do know that the cop was also black, and so that there was this giant hypocrisy bust that came out. I don't know what liberals think about the situation. That's what I want to know.
I don't think it's hypocritical. I think it's like unveiled itself. Because the thing I think about it all is it always boils down to class. Like, you keep up with Gavin McInnes's work. I mean, you were on his show. Have you seen where he'll talk about the social justice warriors as being like the new Victorians? How it's all this, they're trying to be the bourgeoisie. That's why they'll make fun of Trump for being on reality TV.
I haven't heard him speak about that, but yeah, totally.
And the language policing and everything like that.
Yeah.
But it's class warfare disguised as racism, sexism, and everything like that.
That's Marxism. It's class warfare.
It is.
It's, class struggle. It's the class struggle. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah. That's like their whole thing.
Well, that's what you had. You had people getting interviewed from Milwaukee, and the quote was something to the lines of like, well, there's rich people, and they're not giving us no money. And it's like... And then you had the sister of the guy who got shot, and she was like, I don't know why we're burning down our neighborhood. Why are you looting the weave shop? We need weave. Bring that to the suburbs. And it was like, this is a fucking cartoon at this point. Like, that is really so out there and so warped that it's like...
I think there's footage of someone saying too, like, yeah, like let's go to get whiteys or something
Yeah,
like that.
well, yeah, they were like hunting. You had lots of white reporters who just left because they were like, this is too dangerous.
Wow.
They were like hunting down white people. So I mean, there
Yeah.
was a racial aspect going on,
Yeah.
but it's getting ugly. And
It's crazy out there.
yeah, my theory, and I've been saying this for the past year now, you're going to see stuff like that in every city, and Obama's going to have to cancel the election. And he's going to stay in office. And I'll tell you what, now that all this stuff's coming out about Hillary's health, I think that even more so. Because she can't run. I mean,
Yeah. You can't have a president serve more than 2 terms, right?
You can. FDR did it. You can under a national emergency. So he can, it's all the conspiracy theory stuff about martial law, suspending the Constitution, and everything like that. There was even a recent thing, not with Milwaukee, but whatever was the last one. Like right after that, the government put out this whole thing where they were like outlined how they were going to detail mass casualty events within the states. So they're like getting ready with, they're prepared for shit to hit the fan.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, it's definitely gotten worse and worse. And I mean, anecdotally, in New York City here in Brooklyn and traveling to Manhattan, I see daily and hear daily a lot of angry people, from adult males to a grandmother talking to her 13-year-old daughter, telling her about white people and cops, and the granddaughter saying, not all white people are bad, not all cops are bad, and she's telling her, you'll see, and just training her. So
I'll tell
every day there's something. Every day.
Yeah.
White people are gonna burn. I heard the Civil War. Like,
I will say though, with doing my YouTube channel, I'm really lucky that I've had a handful of black people come and speak out and be like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, because they'll say, my family raised me to try to think this way, and they're wrong. I know they're full of hate. They're just, they might be influenced by their past, but I'm not going to live their past, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I really love when I go online and I find people like that too. And, it's always, those black people are always speaking so real.
Yeah.
And so logical. And they're completely respectable people. It's amazing. I love it.
Well, I just think it's like, how hard is it not to judge an entire collective of people based on one incident?
Well, I mean, it's also annoying for me because I'm sitting there now, I feel like I'm being looked at as slave owner, as, oh, she's white, and blah, blah, blah. My mom came here in 1985 and gave birth to me.
Yeah.
I'm the first one in my family born in America in 1985. My family comes from Croatia, and I'm Slavic. The word slaves comes from Slavs. It's literally pirates used to come and capture white Slavic women and turn them into slaves. And that's where the word comes from. Like, it's absolutely crazy. I have nothing to do with American, slave history, but in the eyes of everyone else, they see me and I'm American and I'm white, and it's end of story.
Well, and it's the epitome of racism, which is, you're just being judged based on your skin color.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Martin Luther King, man, I wonder what he would say.
Oh, he's doing backflips in his grave. And now I've seen where they're trying to, people will tout out his quotes to try to justify the rioting. Because there was like one line he said where he was like, sometimes it's justified, but it's like, when a criminal is pointing a gun at a cop and gets shot by a cop, like, that's not what he was talking about.
Yes,
like,
and I also love when they try to take back that he was Republican or any of that, and it's just like annoying. It's like every time we want to say something, it's like, oh no, but that's not really true. Like Democrats started KKK. Well, that's not really true because Dixie Craftswitch. Like, you guys suppressed blacks' votes for everything like throughout history. Well, that's not really true because back then, and then it's like, well, Martin Luther King was Republican. Well, not really. It's like,
did you see Cenk from the Young Turks and Dinesh D'Souza debated at Politicon, and
Yes, I saw
Dinesh
that.
just did the whole movie on all of that,
Yeah.
and Cenk did his whole, you know, his tactics, and then of
Yeah.
course it results in this masterpiece that Steven Crowder gives us, his parody of Cenk. Did you see
Yes.
that?
Yes.
That
Yes. I'm
was
prouder.
the greatest thing I've ever seen, because it's so true. That's like, I couldn't handle it, because Dinesh would bring up a legitimate point. He would be like, "Oh, well, you know, there's you know, bribery and extortion and whatever, and I didn't get arrested for that." And Cenk would just be like, "But you got arrested. You got
Yeah.
arrested." And it's like,
Yeah.
and the scary
Which
part
you're
is that
calling
there's,
Hillary a criminal because you're a criminal. It's like, can we really look at it's the same thing as like not you can't see the criminal like there's different values of
yeah,
criminality.
criminality,
There's like
yeah.
Hillary and there's like Dinesh D'Souza did something just like that they wanted to get him for like something
Yeah.
technical was stupid.
And that's the other problem with all this stuff. You know, I laugh now after learning more about it whenever anyone talks about the loopholes in tax code, because I'm like, have you seen the tax code? It's a fucking game. Like,
Yeah.
it's a strategy game where
It
it's
really
like,
is.
oh,
Well, you know, that's another thing. When I first went off to university, like over 10 years ago, I remember, you know, how am I going to pay for this? What am I going to do? I want to be in university. And I realized that there are all sorts of possibilities. Apply for scholarships, do this, do that. There are all sorts of ways, but no one was going to go out of their way and knock on my door and hold my hand and say, here, this will make it easier. And you can apply for this scholarship and get money free this way. It's like, all right, you strap your boots on and you
yeah.
figure out life, you know? And that's what people don't know how to do anymore. It's like, strap your boots on, man. Figure it out.
And a lot of colleges too. I know a handful of people where they were like in their third year of it, they were like, "Oh, you know, this came up. I don't know how I'm going to manage it, whatever." And they would talk to the advisors in the school, and the school would just be like, "Listen, you've come this far. Here's, you know, look into these, look into this. We can
Yeah.
set up." I mean, a lot of it's really negotiable. A lot
Right,
of it.
right. And it's the same thing with the taxes where it's like, no one's going to come out and hold your hand and say, this is how you file. This will make it better for, I mean, yes, you could pay someone to do that.
Yeah,
Or you can, you know, and
figure
that's
it
what,
out yourself.
and it's also, you know, when you start really working, sorry, this cat is hearing me talk
It's all
and
right.
like, hey, excuse me.
My dog's been crying all night, so don't be surprised if she makes a guest appearance as well.
Maybe. What was I saying? Yeah, no,
The
just the
tax
taxes.
codes.
I mean, when you work and you work really hard and you're tired and you're just trying to hustle and then you get money taken out and you have to pay the man, it's like, yeah, you're gonna try to figure out how to make sure you can keep as much as you can. Why is that wrong?
Yeah. Well,
Why is that wrong?
one of the other things I always think is interesting about the tax stuff, and it ties into the welfare state, is I've had people say things where they're like, you know, my cousin's on disability, and if it wasn't for the welfare state, then they would be screwed. And I just go to these people and I say, but if the government wasn't taking 20% or 10% of your paycheck, would you be willing to give that 10% to your cousin? Like, maybe if you weren't being robbed by the government,
Right.
your family could come together.
Well, that's the whole point too of like being dependent on the welfare state or the sense of community. And that's what people forget about capitalism. That doesn't mean there isn't a sense of community,
Yeah.
of family, of philanthropy. Philanthropy. I can never say that word. You know, people can be generous and be capitalist. Why should you be robbed of your hard work
At
to
gunpoint.
be fair and make things fair for people, and you just feel robbed? You don't. You should give from your own free will, and that makes the energy of that much better.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you know, government, they're taking from everyone at gunpoint ultimately, and then people feel like they're doing some sort of charity act if they ignore that factor.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I try explaining it to people like that when they'll talk about, you know, bringing in the immigrants or giving college to the dreamers or whatever, I'll be like, you might as well just adopt a little Mexican kid. Like, instead of paying a little bit for all of them, just get one and take care of one. Like,
yeah, it was funny. I saw D'Souza at some university, and he called out some young social justice warrior who was talking about white privilege and that, you know, that he does have white privilege. He admitted, he
yeah,
said, and he said, okay, well, you know, since you are beholding illicit white privilege, why don't you give up your seat at this university
to a
to
minority, yeah.
someone that, you know, doesn't have that privilege? And then it's a backtrack of, well, we all need to survive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, if you just
So you want to take it from someone else, but not your seat, right?
yeah.
That's socialism. That's how the left works. It's you should give, but on the right we think, you know, I give what is fair. I give what I want to give, and it all adds up somehow.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that more people haven't picked up on, and maybe they will with everything with Hillary Clinton coming out, but I've noticed, you know, they always make the accusation, oh, Republicans are in bed with big business, this and that. And it's like, okay, well, big business is giving you some fucking jobs. Who are the Democrats in bed with?
Right.
Oh, charities and foundations. The
Yeah.
charities that only give like 10 or 2% to the charity.
They have
And
some fancy dinner and get press taken, and they're so noble and wonderful, but
yeah, between like the Clinton Foundation, the Bill Gates Foundation, all of them, if you look into what they're doing, it's really dark stuff.
yeah.
But one of the other things I was going to mention when you were talking about liberals and how they interpret everything as some coded, you know, language and everything. Did you see Talib Kweli? He had got, and I didn't realize, he's obviously like retired from rapping and has turned into a full-time social justice warrior.
Who?
Talib Kweli, the
Yeah,
rapper.
see, I don't know anything about rap. I'm like Ben Shapiro. I don't know.
He was doing his thing like 12 years ago. He was pretty big, and he's on Obama's summer playlist. He goes to the White House all the time. I think he's working for the government. But that's neither here or there. But someone, because he's posting all this stuff, someone sent him Lauren Southern's video where she makes the claim that the Black Lives Matter has been responsible for more deaths than the
oh, I did see that. Yeah, and he had a thing with her back and forth. Yeah, I saw that.
Rebel media means rebel flag means KKK, and it's like, really? Is that yeah, he claimed the rebel media was the KKK, just simply over the term rebel being used, because his train of logic was rebel media, rebel flag, Confederate flag, Ku Klux Klan. And it's like, these people think they're doing something intellectual, and I just find it hysterical. Like, I think at this point they're all going to end up institutionalized at some point, because you can't succeed in life this way. You can't make it in life thinking like that.
I know, and I mean, most of the people that do think like that are ones that have mooched off me, owe me money, screwed me over, don't work themselves. You know, these are all those people, and you really start to realize that business owners, people that really, self-employed business owners tend to be more conservative and more capitalist, and those that just work under someone or don't work tend to be the ones complaining about everything.
Yeah, it's funny even where I work, because it's like a small cafe and it's just the three of us. It's like the woman who's the technical owner, the guy who's the co-owner, and myself. The woman, definitely very conservative, you know, because she's a business owner. So she wants lower taxes and everything like that. The guy, though, because he identifies himself as, you know, one of the little people, he's a Democrat, and I just constantly am trying to explain to him, like, you are supporting everything that hurts you. Like, why can't you see this?
Yeah.
Well, like,
I mean, it's also interesting to me because they think that the rich are villains, and I'm thinking, well, you want to be poor? Because I don't. I want to be rich. So
Yeah,
you're
that's another
automatically
warped
pushing that.
thing that
They're
that
automatically pushing success away because they associate success with evil.
yeah, and then they think there's a sense of like altruism in
Noble,
being
yeah, they are so
poor.
noble being poor, and that's a better, more honest way of life. No, it's just more difficult. And you know what? A lot of them don't even, they really do have poor habits and they don't do things, take advantage of life the best way possible, I don't think.
Yeah, one of
And
the
I'm not rich by any means, but I want to be, and I want to create those patterns and the habits and the
well,
discipline
and
that they.
especially the richer, like here's the thing that these people don't understand. You don't get rich by hoarding money. Like, I
Exactly.
just took a whole class on like investing in
Exactly.
the stock market and everything
They
like
think
that.
they hoard it. They think the 1% hoards their money. I said that's not how making money works.
Yeah,
Money depreciates in value. You need your money
yeah,
to make money, so you reinvest it
yeah,
into businesses, into stocks, into the economy.
into
That's how you
jobs.
become rich.
Yeah, people they think that money somehow
You
gains wealth by sitting
provide
around, but you're
homes.
completely right. It depreciates. It only depreciates.
You provide homes. You have people paying rent. You're making money, but you're giving people places to live. You're doing all sorts of good.
Yeah, I don't
It
know.
drives me crazy.
One
It
of
drives.
the other things that I noticed that kind of bothers me because I personally, I like all the off-grid living, growing my own
Yeah.
food, stuff like that, but it really bothers me that it has this sort of again the romanticized poverty, like the we're going to reduce everyone to third world living, but you're going to be good people by not having a car and getting around everywhere on a scooter or a bicycle and all that stuff. I see that being pushed all the time too. Like
Yeah.
in the environmentalist movement where it has that same,
Yeah.
you're
I'm
altruistic
totally.
by having less.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like if it's done in their like liberal, nonsensical, let's make life more difficult kind of way for no reason, just to be more noble. But then when
That's
you're doing it,
veganism in a nutshell.
yeah. Oh my God. And then,
I'll get
and then
into that in a minute.
when you're doing it to stay off the grid, be alone, don't want to fucks with the government or anyone else, you're considered a domestic terrorist and a crazy, crazy person.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, really? Can I just?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. Recently, I got into an argument with someone because I have this. I'll just outright say, veganism is a mental disorder or an eating disorder and a mental disorder. But
Yeah, totally.
probably the mental disorder leads to the eating disorder. But and they'll be like, no, it's not. I'm so compassionate. I'm not making animals suffer. And it's like, so is the cow more important than the bugs? And they'll be like, what are you talking about? And it's like, I grow food. Trust me, I have little bugs eating my fucking blueberries. I have little woodland creatures eating my lettuce. Like, you have to stop animals and bugs from eating the crops, and they
Yeah.
think nothing of it. They are completely oblivious that there are animals being harmed and, captured to
Yeah.
keep
My
their lettuce fields safe and everything, but
Totally. My
it,
problem with those types of people too is that they're putting animals on this higher pedestal above humans. They tell me that. They
yeah,
think animals are higher above than humans. They value the life of an animal more than a human.
yet it
That is
doesn't.
mind-boggling, crazy.
Yet, and the only value I can really ascribe to most animals, I mean, except the domesticated pet ones,
I mean,
they
I got
obviously.
mine on my lap. I love I love animals,
Yeah,
but don't get me wrong, she's a fucking cat.
but the cow has more nutritional value than any other value. Like,
Yeah.
that's the reality. The cat
And also,
probably
and
has more
also
personal value than nutritional
yeah.
value.
But I mean, also plants can feel and they can sense and they can protect themselves from danger by emitting toxins when it's trying to be eaten. They can communicate with each other. I mean, where does the line end, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, it's arbitrary lines. That's the
And it's also
problem.
and they think that the animals are just such these gentle, precious creature and how evil us humans are. Go out into the wilderness. Go out to Go upstate. Go with the coyotes. Go see, have fun. Go see
Yeah.
if a bear won't kill you.
Oh yeah, I used to work at a driving range, and there was woods on each side, and I'd be picking the field or mowing it or something, and every now and then you just find the carcass of something, a pile
Yeah.
of bones, and it's like,
Oh my God, my cat's
oh, the
upstairs. There's,
coyotes.
oh, coyotes, yeah. My that's why my sister won't let one of her little cats out because she's scared the coyote's gonna kill it, like it has our other cats.
Yeah, so animals fuck shit up, basically, for anyone who doesn't know. Like,
Like they are so vicious and scary. Like you can't act like they're these precious little gentle creatures. Calm down.
yeah,
It's eat or be eaten out there.
yeah, especially if you want to, like, say there's an animal kingdom and humans are just the highest evolved part of it. I mean,
I
I,
mean, I don't see any other creatures building cities and doing amazing, creating physics or something.
yeah, no, it's so backwards to think that animals should be placed above everything else. So the question that I was going to ask about being an oppressed minority, because I think it really baffles me that, like the way you have to conduct everything with trying to keep this a good distance away from gigs and everything like that. Like I mentioned, the guy I work with in the UK,
Yeah.
he's terrified of, the British government at this point is coming down on people. He's had his Facebook blocked for criticizing Islam, like in the same week that someone gets beheaded in the city he lives in. And it's like, if you speak out against it, there are real life punishments. And it's,
I
again,
know.
so boggling how everyone's like, we're oppressed, women are oppressed, blacks are oppressed, Mexican. It's like, who's losing
Conservatives
jobs?
are oppressed,
Who's
right?
losing jobs just for saying, like, oh, I might vote Trump, you're
Yeah.
fired? Like,
Yeah, I'm scared. I mean, how bad is it that I'm scared to publicly actually say, like, show a photo of support or a meme in support of
yeah,
Trump? I mean, he's one of our presidential candidates, and I'm afraid that people, me posting the D'Souza movie trailer and asking if anyone wanted to see it with me, I lost a few friends.
really?
Yeah, that's it. That's
That's
all it's. That's
that's
all it's.
so awful. I mean, I don't want to badmouth your friends, but I really, part of me at this point thinks if it's people who are like that, they're not worth being friends with.
Yeah, yeah, I know, and that's something that I'm coming to deal with because I want to do this more often and get do more interviews and make interviews myself and make memes and have this persona myself publicly, and I'm trying to figure out how I can do that because I want to troll really hard, and then I get scared because it could directly affect the people I interact with performing.
Yeah, isn't it great though in this day and age that just asserting basic facts is like trolling, like that someone has that sort of reaction to it, like Lauren Southern being like there's only two genders and someone's so triggered they pour piss on her, like
Yeah.
how are people so out there? I mean, it must be mind controlled to some extent. Like I like researching mind control, so that's what I always chalk it up to. I'm like,
Yeah, no, I love mind control. I mean, there's varying degrees of mind control. I mean, it can go from simple programming, television programming, advertisements to binaural sound waves
yeah,
or ELF towers or different ways of and levels. I mean, there's the what is it,
the tr-
trauma based
yeah.
mind control. There's a lot of different ways that one can be controlled. Yeah, I don't know. What's the all the social justice warriors have to have had some sort of
Well,
yeah. I
and
mean,
part of
school.
it's their education. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
education.
indoctrination thing. Like,
Yeah.
I saw an interesting thing where a teacher was talking to Stefan Molyneux about. He brought up the point where he was like, I teach college, I give all the kids a question first, and he's like, realistically, the kids are at a middle school level when they enter college, and they're told, you can't handle a full class load, so they're in college till they're like 27 now, which is ironic because under Obamacare, you're a kid under your parents' health care until you're 27.
27.
Yeah. And, but all these people, they're at a middle school level of reading and everything like that, but they have these warped ideas that, like, slavery was exclusive to America, and that, it wasn't worldwide. So it's like, they're dumb as shit, and then completely misinformed. And that's a dangerous combination.
I know. And then the idealistic young mindset is just... doesn't help all of that.
No.
Hacking it.
Because then you think crazy ideas like socialism could actually work or something.
Finally.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy that they think it actually didn't fail, and they think that America is socialist and that it does work in countries. Like, it's mind-boggling talking to these people. It's like, I don't understand where they went to school. It's absolutely crazy.
Well, the one problem I constantly have with people when they're bad-mouthing capitalism and the free market, and I'll be like, all right, your first problem is you're assuming we live in a capitalist free market because you've been taught that, and we're really very far from that at this point. Yeah, I said, but do you realize that what you're objecting to is like farmers markets and lemonade stands? Like, Walmart isn't an example of capitalism. Walmart is crony capitalism and globalism and, everything we're against. Capitalism is the lemonade stand, the farmers market, the person selling bootlegs out of their trunk. Like, that's
what I try to tell people. I mean, in my industry, for those that don't know, I'm a performance artist, so I perform in New York City. I'm around other cirque performers, burlesque girls, sideshow freaks, magicians, all that stuff, and wait, what were we saying? Oh, yeah, the capitalism. So I try to remind them, and my way of kind of introducing my viewpoint to them is I say, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm self-employed. And then they go, yeah, me too. And I'm just like, yeah. So, capitalism, I try to remind them what business we're in. Yeah. We are entrepreneurs. Don't forget that. That is capitalism.
Yeah. Oh, it would be such a dark day to think that, like, full socialism where it's like, oh, I want to put out a song, let me go get my permission slip from government, that, like, I can do that, but that's where it always ends up. And the other analogy because here's the big enemy of mine lately is equality. Like, there's no need for it. I hate fairness.
You can't force equality.
Well, there's two types of equality. Everyone should be equal under the law. I agree with that. And then it should just stop there. Because here's the problem, and we can tie this back into the mind control idea. You're teaching children, we're all special, we're all individuals, you're all unique, but you're all equal. And that's two complete, that's a recipe for cognitive dissonance right there, because you're teaching them these two contrary ideas that you're special, you're an individual, but you're all the same, which is the complete opposite, because that's what equality implies. And it's not, and it bothers me when I see everyone like, oh, this isn't equal, this isn't fair, and I'm like, this is the shit my little niece and nephew argue about. His cookie's bigger than mine, this isn't fair. And it's like, life isn't fair. I was always taught that. I was told that outright as a child, and I was like, okay.
And we were told sticks and stones don't break your bones.
Yeah.
Wait, no, what was it? Sticks and stones may break your bones, but names
words will never hurt you, yeah.
But now there's words are hate, violence.
Yeah.
Words equal physical
abuse
threat.
And trauma, and I hear tweets being described as if it's like machetes going into someone's body, and they're just like
sticks and stones, people, come on. Did we forget all of these old-fashioned sayings? And that's another thing that annoys me is that tradition and old-fashioned people think, oh, they didn't know anything back then. Like, we're so smart. We just we realized what reality is. No, those old people back then, like they didn't know anything. How about like listen to
Your
some of the
elders.
past knowledge that they were telling us and build from it.
Yeah.
Don't just like go, that's old fashioned. Let's just forget that. It's so dumb.
Well, I think that's a impression gained from the concept of evolution, that everything always moves forward and gets better, and you know, so whatever was before must be stupid somehow.
Yeah.
And it's like, just doesn't make sense. And liberalism, I mean, it's, I mean, as someone who was liberal for the majority of my life until recently, it's a recipe for disaster. Like, you don't end up happy, and then you're given this ideology to scapegoat your happiness onto everyone else, or your lack of happiness. Where it's just like, oh, it's not my fault, it's the system, or it's this.
And another thing about all that, and including, you know, this racism that we're holding on to, that people are holding on to, and everything. I mean, when you start studying spiritual enlightenment, one of the first things that comes up is forgiveness.
Yeah.
You know, and it is really hard. And I understand that there's certain people I hate, and I would love to, I just love to hate them, you know, but to be spiritually free and enlightened and move to the next phase, you have to forgive and, like, honestly, genuinely, like, forgive and move on and be able to heal that part. And I don't think it's healthy for the Black community to hold on to this hate.
Yeah.
This hate didn't
well, and it takes so much more energy to hate someone than to forgive them and just be like, it's whatever.
Imagine how free the Black communities would be if they forgave.
Well, and one of the other things that bother me about them holding on to it is they fail to see, you know, whenever someone brings up, oh, well, you know, the oppression of slavery is still going on, and I'm like, you're talking to me on a computer. Like, do you think the slaves imagined the World Wide Web? Like, you should just sit back for a second and realize how much luxury we're really surrounded by. I mean, we're in a different world than what was back then. It should be completely negated. It has no relevancy on the modern day and age.
It's quite insulting to people that really dealt with it in the past, real hardship, and what they actually went through, and the racism they struggled. It's so insulting to those.
Yeah. I know. Someone, you know, someone sends you an angry meme on Twitter, and it's like getting sprayed with a fire hose down in Louisiana or something.
Someone wears dreadlocks and walked past you in the hallway.
Yep. That, I'll tell you, that shit bothers me so much, the cultural appropriation thing. And it's funny because I had someone who, I made a video about it, where this guy was trying to say that Black people invented classical music, and his explanation was the piano was based on an African instrument, the harp was based on one, and the violin was based on one. So I'm like, alright, but who are the composers? Like, you can't just say, here are the tools, and that means everyone that ever used those tools. So I did a video playing on that, being like, oh, well, you know, 90% of hip-hop is made on a Japanese drum machine. Okay, so I was saying how 90% of hip-hop is made on a Japanese Akai drum machine. It's a sampler drum machine. I said, so following that logic, the Japanese created hip-hop, then, following that logic, and someone was arguing with me, and then finally they mentioned, they said, just because of the tools doesn't mean, you know, it's who actually made the compositions. And I said, yes, that's my whole point. Except you're trying to say that Africans can claim everything over the tools and everything else, but no one else can. You just need to take your logic and apply it evenly, equally. There's your equality you want. Everyone gets the same rules, same standard. And that's the other thing that really, with the white privilege and everything like that, the people who believe it, they're the white supremacists. was saying, the crazy thing is it's the people who are fighting against white privilege that are building the white supremacy.
Right.
Because they're creating a set of rules, a higher standard for white people than others. Like, I had someone tell me, you know, if Beyonce dresses like a Hindu, that's fine. But if Katy Perry wears a grill, that's problematic. And Katy Perry should be criticized. And I said, okay, so there's a higher standard for Katy Perry than Beyonce. You are making a white supremacy. You are building it. And they have no idea. Like, they're just like, no, slavery, no.
I don't care about the color of someone's skin, but the content of their character, man. That's end of story for me. I don't sit there and base them on white or black the way that liberals do. They love to point out how many colored people are in something. It's like, why? What?
Well, you know, I saw a thing on Twitter the other day I thought was kind of funny. It was like, hashtag white liberal proverbs, and it was like, you know, a bunch of conservatives started it and were mocking white liberals, but then all the minority liberals started chiming in and they were mocking the white liberals, and I thought it was hysterical because it's like, you know, if these white liberals saw this, they would realize how much they're not wanted. Like, you're hated by all the people you think you're advocating for, and all the ones I saw, like, real hateful messages from, I would just go over their picture and it would be like educator, social rights activist, like tons of educators, tons of educators, and all I could think is like, this is where it's coming from. Racism is obviously taught, and it's being taught at the college level now. It's not even just on some ignorant backwoods, you know. It's really awful.
That's what they think of conservatives, is that we're redneck backwoods. But you know what? We're going to show them how cool we are. There's Milo. I think Crowder's pretty cool. And, you know, there's like, we're both artists. And I think it's time for us to really like show up. That's why Trump is hilarious.
And I think, you know, now too, we're having a point in time where, you know, you see Twitter and Facebook, they have their line in the sand drawn. One thing I thought was really interesting, I saw an interview between Cenk Uygur and Lori Penny. Are you aware of her at all?
Oh, yeah, I don't think I saw the one with Cenk, but yeah.
Well, the way it goes, and I read the article Lori Penny wrote about it as well, because I guess Milo invited her to his Gays for Trump event, and now this whole article is her going through how nice Milo is to her, but because of his ideology, she hates him. And she says that over and over in the interview with Cenk, like they're basically declaring war. They're saying, you know, because of your ideology, I can't even be friends with you. I can't even be civil with you.
Well, that's exactly why we're afraid, and that's what I'm sort of afraid of, because my world is particularly all those feminist, social justice warrior, gay, trans types. So it scares me, but I really want to be part of the community with Milo and other gay,
like-minded
diverse
people,
conservatives, and ones that are not what they think we are.
Yeah, well, you know, people want to be around like-minded people. You don't want to be some leper. I mean, I've had people tell me that it's disgusting that I'm a musician and conservative, and I'm like, why? I mean,
disgusting.
Yeah, because, and here's the other thing is, I look at it, because again, if you're a conservative, I just assume you're a little more grounded. And I've, you know, looked into the numbers. Beyonce, she has to be getting government subsidy money, because her albums don't sell. Like, her last album, remember, she performed at the Super Bowl, it had so much press, 1.2 million in sales. Worldwide, 1.2 million. And we're talking, you know, in the 90s, you could sell 10 million your first week. Now, I know it's a different day and age, but it's like, music isn't going to cut it. You got to do other things, but they expect everyone to be this sort of, oh, well, I'm a liberal, I'm going to do what my heart tells me to do, and then when I don't accomplish it and end up nowhere for it, I'm going to blame everyone else rather than, you know, it's the idea of the lesbian dance theory major who has no job at the end of it, and it's everyone else's fault.
Yeah.
and they just expect me to be like
Well,
that.
another thing about Beyonce, I've looked into this a lot because I've had people in my world kind of try to copy me. And, intellectual property is an interesting conversation, especially when it is more of a libertarian conservative thing of anti-intellectual property, but then when you do come up with something, it is scary to have just everyone else snatch that up and start using it in their work for being an entrepreneur, And
Yeah.
take your idea and run and make money off it, and you're like, fuck, that's my thing. So I started looking up things and what I can do, and nonstop I kept getting articles about Beyonce copying. She straight up, every single video, every single concept of hers is taken like directly from some unknown foreign artist.
Lady Gaga too, I've heard that
so many
about.
times. What?
I've heard that about Lady Gaga too.
Yeah. So they literally, and you could see footage of Beyonce talking herself, back in the 90s in BET or MTV or something, and saying how, people don't want her to show up at their shows because she's going to steal it. Like, and then she talks about going on the internet and just hunting down cool art concepts that people are doing that are nobodies. And she, make banks off it, just steals concepts. So, I mean, and another thing about her is just she's become more and more racist, and it's really freaking annoying.
That's why I think she's
Did you know the whole Becky thing? That's racist against white girls.
Yeah.
And they're just making songs about Becky, and I'm sitting there and I'm working in nightclubs and like, all right, I'm done. I don't want to sit here dance to some song talking about this Becky girl. Like, my name is Martina. I'm very exotic, beautiful, voluptuous white woman.
Well, and it shows you how insane they are when that first came out and they were like, Becky with the good hair, Rachel Ray? Is Rachel Ray sleeping with Jay-Z? And her fans immediately like...
Oh no, you're there?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It went yellow. Am I still here?
I got you.
Okay. I was saying it's amazing how her fans like attacked Rachel Ray, as far as verbally, tweet-wise. They just went after her because Rachel, Becky, Rebecca.
Oh my God.
I mean, could you imagine Jay-Z, from what I hear, he's into trannies and everything else. I mean, Rachel Ray, like, how do you get to that?
Wow.
Yeah, there's crazy stories. Half the people in Hollywood that people think are respectable people are the most high-level filth you could imagine.
I know. I know. I've had experience in that Hollywood lifestyle, and there are people into famous people getting stopped for autographs and stuff, into things like bestiality, all sorts of weird things.
Yeah.
And for real. Like, I'm not talking a conspiracy theory. I'm talking... I know.
Well, there's even, because you see the kind of occultic stuff all through a lot of Hollywood artists and everything like that. And one of the other things, again, this sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory, but for people who are hardcore into that stuff, like Kanye West declaring himself a god and everything like that, if that's rooted in a black magic, occultic mindset, it is not crazy to then think that Kanye West could be, like, eating his own shit. Because to him, in that dark mindset, it's a sacrament. He's a god. So, of course, his bowel movements must be holy. And, like, that's how they get into that stuff.
I mean, it's also scary, too. Because if you look into that kind of stuff, same with pedophilia and the bestiality and things like that, it's not considered a mental disease in the DSM-5. It's a sexual orientation. And so a lot of those you'll find, if they're not gay, but they're avid supporters of the LGBT community for some weird reason, it's because they're trying to make that the next step towards acceptance.
Well, that was the funny thing about the conversation I had where I was defending, marriage and everything like that. This person, I kept asking them, I said, are you in the closet? Are you gay? Like, you seem to be very personally invested in this. Like, where is this coming from? And they wouldn't give any bit of their, I think this. No, just taking my words and trying to twist it and play a game out of it. Yeah, it was the weirdest conversation that wasn't a conversation at all, because conversation implies going both ways. It was just someone playing games with my words, and then I just cut through it all and was like, this is what you're doing. I know what you're doing on a tactical level. You're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And of course then everyone else was like, oh, this guy's a genius. Like, he just called you out on this little
And
game of yours.
by the way, I'm in no way associating the gay community with those disgusting things. I know that those are two separate things. I'm just saying that the gay community needs to be careful.
Yeah.
Because there are other things at play that are trying to piggyback off of.
Well, they're trying to piggyback on the logic or lack of logic of it. You know, the whole idea of, well, love is love, and, you know, it's...
I mean, I have, yeah, exactly, and I agree with it in terms of gays and stuff like that. I have lots of gay friends, and I don't give a shit, dude. Have your lifestyle. They're funny, they're hilarious, I love them. You know, I work with plenty of them. It's fine, and a lot of them, I don't even, if I work with them, some, like my directors or something like that, don't talk about any of the social justice warrior stuff. It's all business, total respect. I love it. It's great. Total support. All that stuff. But it is scary what's going on piggybacking off their community.
Yeah, well, especially when Salon is publishing articles like, I'm the pedophile, you're the monster. Because that's how the gay movement started. You would see articles in Reader's Digest and stuff kind of being like, oh, you know, I can't be myself around everyone, I'm being judged, and trying to gather the sympathy for it. One of the things I had I was saying is, like I had brought up, I don't know if you've ever saw the Gay Manifesto, which was published in a gay publication, Gay Community, in '87, and it was, I mean, it's a declaration of war. It's like, we will take your sons and sodomize them. They are feeble emblems of your masculinity. Like, it is. And it says right out in it, we will destroy the nuclear family and replace it and this, and that. And I brought it up and I told the people, I said, what you need to be aware of is there is a group of people that are the equivalent of what ISIS is to Islam, to the homosexual movement. That there are some people who are not just, you know, I want to live my life, I don't want to be judged. They're like, I want to destroy everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fuck the patriarchy, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, I have a lot of coworkers too, other women that, you know, when I'm in my 30s, and when I describe my desire for what I want in the future and a family and a man, they always shut me down with, oh, you don't need a man, you don't need a family, you don't need a man to have a kid, all this stuff, you don't need to have kids, like all these things. And it's just really not respected at all for a woman to want that, but it is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing if a gay couple wants to have a family and get married. But it's not cool if it's a cis... What was the last thing you heard?
You were saying how it's not cool for a cisgender white woman to want to
Yeah, I mean,
do the nuclear family thing.
Yeah, just being a normal cis straight woman is not respected to have a family, a traditional family, but if you're gay or something, it's a beautiful thing and it's magical and beautiful.
Yeah, I mean now, and it's even, you have grown men abandoning their families to embrace their lives as a 6-year-old girl, and that's
Well, that's
celebrated, and it's like,
well, that's my other issue with a liberal mentality of doing what feels right for you. It's a very selfish
yeah,
mentality. Life is not that way. I mean, even like say my grandfather, he died last year, and I think back and I said, "Damn, I was so selfish." I should have it wouldn't have been fun to visit him while he's sick and dying and he's old, and it's never fun to be around that. But it would have been more self-fulfilling
yeah. I
to endure that and be around it and stick it out, and life is beautiful that way, but to just run around doing what you feel you want to do is so selfish, so
I
selfish.
I wonder, and I don't know if you'd be able to answer this or not. It might.
What is she thinking? Why not be the best I can be? Look at my lips. Look at my hips. My nose. My breast. Look at my chin.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on.
It's all right. I was saying I have it sometimes where I'll talk to girls about other girls, and I'll be like, I was thinking I want to do this, and that, and they'll respond to me and be like, Jamie, you should really do more things for yourself. You shouldn't be so giving or want, and I just hear where they're saying you should be more selfish. And I'm always baffled by that, because I'm like, okay, are you telling me, like, I'm interpreting this two ways. Either you're jealous and you're wishing a guy was saying, I'd like to do this for you, or you really do like guys that are selfish, because then maybe you can treat them like shit and not feel bad about it. Like,
Yeah.
where does it come from? But I mean, I've seen it even in just, like I said, asking girls for advice on other girls, and they'll be like, you should be more selfish. And it's like, is that attractive? Like,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I had someone recently tell me, oh, well, if you had, I was complaining about a guy, and he said, well, if you had a good guy that treated you right, you wouldn't want him anyway. I was like, no, I think that's not true. I think I found one recently. So through the Proud Boys, through Gavin.
oh, the search
Yeah,
ended
yeah.
up
I
being
mean,
fruitful.
what?
I said the search ended up being fruitful.
Yeah, I kind of. It wasn't a fan. He's a British politician. He's working with Gavin. He's been interviewed by Gavin too. But we've been chatting online, and it's great to find someone that you can.
I switched my internet now.
Okay.
So hopefully everything is good now.
Cool. Yeah, no, I was saying just about this British politician guy. He seems to be like a nice nerdy boy that is just saying all the right things and being as sweet as possible. And I tell you, it can't feel better to just have a sigh of relief that I'm not stressed about today's age with Tinder and anything you can search on the internet and any sick, disgust, bash, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I do want a good boy.
Yeah, I'll tell you, in downloading Tinder and just looking through it, it makes things very depressing, because I mean, I feel like all girls are clones. Like, I don't know who's the original one, but they're all very similar. Like, it's always the same pictures, same jobs, same, like, you're either a teacher or a nurse or you're a photographer. Like, there's only a few jobs that they ever pick. Nothing wrong with it if they're good at it. Always every eighth one looks like a missing Kardashian cousin. Like, it's really obnoxious, because, and then it just makes it all dismal. And then I look at my friends' relationships, and either there's some that are just on their own, married and having a family, and they don't have time for friends, Or they're the people who want to constantly bring friends around them because their relationships are so shitty that they have to supplement like things with extra company. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, they really did break down the whole unit, and they're loving it.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps the Democrats, people voting more Democrat, and they're just appeasing them without helping them at all. Look at every single Democrat city, and what have they done?
Nothing.
What have they
They're
done
all
for
in
race relations?
shambles. All in shambles. I mean, as far as the relationships stuff goes, the only peace of mind I can find is I'm at least a guy, and, there's younger girls, and it's, kind of appropriate for,
You can have kids anytime.
yeah, the sexual market value thing. So, I mean,
a few more years.
I know.
A few more.
So I feel I understand that there are stresses that the females have that I don't have to worry about as much and everything. Although I would like to do it sooner than later, just because, I've had like chronic Lyme disease since I was a little kid. So I worry like I'm going to be 40, have a kid running around wanting to play, and I'm going to be like, oh God, no, like, and just in too much pain. So I'd like to be a proactive parent and like play with my kid and not have to worry about medical issues, which I think everyone assumes you get with age and everything. But either way, the whole Tinder thing is so depressing. So depressing.
It's depressing out there in general. It's bad, so.
And I also have
someone that's good is important, and girls that want bad boys, I don't understand that at all. It's not good.
No,
it's not healthy.
It's not.
And I don't even have a dad. I don't know where they get these issues. These are normal girls with dads.
But, well, some of it, like, it's so strange, like, because one girl I dated for a while, she had the, standard nuclear family. Like, the dad went to the city, he worked in the city, came home late, they would go on vacations all the time. It seemed like the perfect nuclear family. And then I'll see the shit she posts online, and it's all of this, like, if I ever have kids, the smartest thing a woman can do is always keep her independence. And it's like, I can't figure out, like, I've tried to psychoanalyze this, and I'm like, maybe this is because her mom converted to Judaism so that you could have a Jewish family instead of being half Catholic, half Jewish. But I mean, if you look, there's minority advantages to being Jewish. So it's smart to do on a level. But I just, like you're saying, some of them have perfect families.
Yeah, no, at least the Jews have, like, tradition, and, like, a Jewish man would... Sabbath is a amazing thing to celebrate. It means you put technology away, you put that stupid phone away, you be around family, cook, eat food, like, be in nature. It actually sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Those are really good traditions to keep. So, yeah, I would convert. I'd convert, sure.
I would too. But you're right though. It's people that seem to have the most greatest backgrounds end up being the ones who are like, fuck
the
this
ones
shit.
The ones complaining about white privilege and all this stuff. They're the ones that have two-parent privilege. Like, they're the ones that are the most privileged, and they're complaining about it, and they're mooching off me, and I'm just like, I'm the one that, is not come from privilege, and I don't, and I'm doing all right and helping you out.
That's like one of the funniest posts I'd ever seen online was this girl I went to high school with, and I swear the one drop rule is back in effect. Have you noticed that now mixed kids only identify as black? Like mulatto doesn't exist, I guess. So this girl, who's half white, but only sees herself as black, is posting about the recent microaggressions in her life and how, it's this overarching, racism everywhere. And one of them is like, I went inside the store, and my boyfriend's outside, like, fucking his brand new BMW. And some guy pulls up and just says, hey buddy, you shouldn't be touching someone else's car. Because I guess he didn't think, someone would be all over their car in a parking lot. And of course that's a microaggression, and she gets all up in arms about it. Now, you could see that as, wow, that guy was looking out for your property. He didn't know you were the owner, and he was trying to do you a favor and help you out, but you are such an ungrateful piece of shit and only interpret everything as racism that you're oppressed by someone looking out for you. Just because they're white. So it must be evil. And it's like, that's where that shit, and I just look at it, I'm like, you are so warped. If I lived in your head, I'd be diving off the bridge right now. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's like hardcore levels of paranoia. And then I suddenly remembered that there's this thing that you would hear about in the 90s, the mental health stigma in the black community. Like, the black community is very anti-therapist, anti-psychologist, and everything like that. Huh?
I'm like that too.
I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff in there that isn't, you know, they'll take basic human emotions and tell you it's an illness.
Exactly.
But at some point, there's a bit of paranoia that it seems to be being perpetuated. When, like I said, when someone drives by and is like, hey, you know, you might not want to be touching someone else's car because they didn't assume it was your car, you know, they're helping you out, but you, of course, interpret everything as an attack.
Yeah, I mean, that's gotta be like, what, schizophrenic or something? Yeah, paranoid is a clinical thing.
Yeah.
It's classic paranoia right there.
Yeah. I mean, even the other thing was like, she was putting her stuff on the counter, and a guy said something about, oh, you can put it back in your car. I'm sure you'll be able to pay for it. You know, just like casual remarks.
You just said it. Yeah,
people make that remark to me, or, you know, I'd mentioned it to my mother, and she was like, oh, I hear that all the time. If you're buying a big case of water or something, they'll say, oh, yeah, you can put it back in the car. I'm sure you'll be fine. It's not because you're black. Sorry. You know, there's a quote where it's like, when you get used to special treatment, you'll think equality is oppression or something like that. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
People getting treated like everyone else. And
that's true. My friend also has this quote. Hold on, let me find it real quick that I really actually agree with as well. Hold on one second, here it is. Yeah, my friend Brian said, the problem with the golden rule is that it only works among people with a conscience. It does not work with people who live by might is right. When you come in contact with them, they will assume your kindness to be weakness and will prey upon you. They only understand strong versus weak. If you want them to treat you with kindness, you must be stronger. So it's just like, you know, people with integrity and assume others live by that same golden rule, but they just prey upon you as weak because you're kind. And you live by this integrity.
Yeah.
You know, I would never want to scam anyone else. So people take that by saying, oh yeah, so can you hook me up with this or that? And it's like, because I'm assuming no one else is going to do that to me.
Projection is a dangerous, dangerous thing. That's what it is. People projecting their prejudices and their values on everyone else, and you know, even like I was saying, the whole the conversation with Cenk and Lori Penny, I definitely recommend you check that out, because you will laugh hysterically, especially if you see Sargon of Akkad's breakdown of it, because like I said, they're declaring war. She's talking about how nice Milo is to her, and they're just like, I could never be friends with him. He doesn't even understand that I can't be friends with him. Like, it is the most, those two are just like perpetuating each other's vile and bitterness. Yeah. And then you read the article about it, and it's like, he invited you to a party, he picked you up, he like made sure you were having fun, and you're just like, I'm surrounded by neo-fascist, skinhead, patriarchal, blah, 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 blah. It's so awful.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to look that up. I was looking for something good on YouTube. I seem to not be able to watch Hulu or Netflix, aside from seeing practically everything already. there's no new content is just all mind-numbing, and it all has a liberal bias. Like I can't watch anything. You think it's gonna be, I'll watch like the movie Noah, and I'm like, all right, cool. I'll take a cool biblical movie. Total twisted and warped the whole thing, ruined it. It was horrible. Just
Yeah.
everything is some sort of twisted version that annoys me. It's some sort of, I'm just like, I can't even watch this. Let me go on YouTube.
Yeah, I have the same problem where I'll open up my app for TV and then I'll browse through it and I'll be like, nothing looks appealing. The only thing I ever watch now is like Mexican wrestling. And it's like, well, at least I know this is simulated warfare and, I'm just watching it to appease my masculine tribal need to see someone get thrown through a table or something. Like, it's all it ever is. Except, like, the Mexican stuff has a lot of acrobatics mixed into it. It's, like...
Actually.
Very, very interesting. But they also, like... And the other thing that's interesting, you notice how... bringing up the Hispanic thing made me think of it, how these social justice warriors are so against the patriarchy, and yet the populations they want to import are complete patriarchies. Like... Hispanics are full of machismo. It's very male-driven. Islam is patriarchy. Like, they're importing every patriarchy they can find while trying to...
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. But it's because they have this kind of cultural relativist, mindset of, oh, well, that's their culture. We can't, criticize it or anything like that. I mean, that's what happened with the... Rotherham rape scandal, I think. I don't know if you saw that. In England, there were like 2,000 girls who were sex trafficked, and the cops were like, we were aware of it, but we didn't want to look into it because we were afraid we'd get called racist.
Yep. That's what's going on, and that's why, America is one of the last places of freedom. It really is, and that's why the whole immigration topic is really important in America, because Europe, in my head, I always thought of Europe as this great Western culture that I could go to. I studied abroad in China, wanted to see Chinese culture. Of course you want to see these exotic places, go to India or Africa or wherever, and then you think, well, one day I want to go to Europe and seeing the great Western culture, but it's not that today.
Yeah, no.
It's absolutely crazy.
Definitely not. It's being overrun. I saw an interesting video where it was like, the ones where they'll have someone giving a lecture and someone will draw like a cartoon of what they're saying and it kind of goes along with it all. Yeah. It was like that, and it was about the inevitable collapse of a feminist society. I'll send you the link so you can see it. And they go through and they're like, we've done all these studies, and anytime a feminist society comes up, it inevitably fails. And they found out that there's this link to chastity where and it makes complete sense, because it's like, if women are fucking freely, men are less motivated. Because if women are restricting who they're having sex with, a man will essentially build society in an attempt to woo a woman.
That's so true, yeah.
And so it was saying how it's amazing because you've had all these European countries go completely liberal, and they are now being taken over by Islam, which everyone would think, oh, they're very backwards. It's, from the desert. They're still living like it's hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, totally.
But they have that sexual restriction and chastity, which is allowing them to completely overrun everyone else. Because you look at some of these examples, and it's like 2,000 girls sex trafficked, and there wasn't, I know the Brits don't have guns, but you find a pitchfork. Like, I can't believe there wasn't an angry mob exiling immigrants out of there. It's so amazing. I see some of these things and I just ask, where are the men?
Yeah. Have you seen the cases where people were raped and they apologized to the immigrant?
How the women will be like, oh, I can't press charges because he's an immigrant, or it will, destroy his life, or, And I've also seen
That's something else. There's something else going on. It's crazy.
That's the soft bias of low expectations. That's their racism. They don't hold brown people to the same standard that they hold themselves to. I know a girl who immigrated to England and, took the test, got dual citizenship, and then every other post I see of hers is open borders, bring the families in, this and that. And it's like, so wait, why did you do everything by the book, but you encouraged all of these brown people to just show up and do whatever? Like, you have a standard for yourself that you don't hold everyone else to. Like, why are you so racist? Like, that's what it is.
I love it. I love how you say that. It's great.
But it also, there was a thing in England where you had like a 14-year-old kid rape like a 7-year-old girl or something, and the judge was like, oh, well, in his culture, he's taught that this is what you do, so no time, it's all right, you can go on about your way.
But they're saying that when I bring that up here, people are saying that that's not in their culture. Oh, no, that's just some crazy stuff. That's not really in the culture.
No.
So when is it in their culture and when is it not?
Germany just lowered the age of consent to 12 because it's in their culture.
Well, that's also the whole thing with, Muhammad and his child bride, Aisha.
Yeah.
6 years old.
And that's also, one of the crazy similarities. Like, people would have to wonder what the social justice warriors and Islam have in common. Pedophilia. That's their common ground. They both are, and I've seen things. The other thing where it's very easy for them to do it is people don't understand, like, implications from law. Where you had the UN do a declaration saying children have sexual rights. And it was, their rationale, of course, was, oh, well, we need to give children sexual rights so that tribal girls can refuse to have their clits cut off, or, female circumcision stuff. And it's like, okay, but now you're saying children are sexual creatures with sexual rights, and they can consent to sex.
Wow.
Because that's entailed in this package. So it's sold to them as, oh, well, this will stop girls from being abused, but it's opened the floodgate for pedophilia.
Right.
It's road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Exactly. That's the whole trick to the left is, oh, good intentions.
Yeah. Well, it's very much the left has good intentions and are very spineless in their idea of, oh, love, oh, we'll fight the terrorists with love. If they blew us up, we just need to embrace them more. And it's like, I see these people and I'm like, are you sadists? Like,
except when it's Catholic and white.
Yeah. Well, and I think
there's hate and there's anger and there's call for blood for some reason towards these people.
But I was going to say, conservatives, they have a tough love approach where it's like, I don't hate you, but I'd rather have you work a job than give you a handout. You'll get more money that way. You'll be able to make your own life choices.
It's the same thing like with their parenting style. I mean, a liberal would be, oh, no, you don't spank the children, and, oh, honey, do you want this? Do you want that? And they run the household. The child runs the household. But in a conservative family, they are the boss. The parent, the elder is the boss, and you respect your elder. You teach them how to be a decent human being, contribution to society, and yeah, you'll give them a good smack if they're doing something wrong, like extremely wrong. You give them a good whack. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, and, I hear people talk against the whole spanking kids and stuff, and I just think, I'm like, okay, but when you're in the real world, if you mouth off to the wrong person, they're gonna punch you in the face. Like,
that's true.
I'm not saying
that's true.
Beat your kids, but I'm saying you need to give them a sense of reality, that sometimes your words will have repercussions.
Yeah, they think they're so secure in their light and they can go around doing that in the real world. That could get them killed.
Yeah.
That's what causes these aggressions and fights, when you get drunk and you've never been smacked around like that before in your life. it's going to cause a fight.
One other thing, since we were talking about liberal raising of children, I was talking to my mother once about my nieces and nephews, and I was like, you got to watch out for this, got to watch out for this. You don't want them growing up to be bad kids. And now listen to this little bit of Orwellian doublespeak. My mom told me, and she's a liberal, into liberal psychology and all that stuff. She told me there are no bad kids, there are just bad actions. Now think about the implications of that. So the bad kids are good, and the good kids are good. There's just bad actions. So how do you differentiate?
So who's in control of these actions? Just random actions are happening? Is anyone accountable for these actions?
No, it's just a good kid doing a bad action.
See, I get the same.
I mean, that's doublethink.
I get the same thing where people think that you can't judge someone by their actions that they've done. I'm like, you can't judge someone by their actions. What? Cause and effect.
What else are you supposed to judge them on? Well, I guess to the left, you're supposed to judge them on their gender, race, and everything else, and just...
I judge you by your actions, not your
always.
Race, sorry.
Yeah, your actions, what you say, if, your conduct.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I just think, like, how do you ever like raise a child correctly if you're never bad? Like, if you've put that in your head that there's nothing, it's just, oh, that's just a bad action, but they're a good kid. And it's like, no, you need to sit them down and tell them, if you keep doing this, you will grow up to be a bad kid. If you are bad, no one will like you. Like,
yeah. I mean, I was taught that it's like a seed. You just keep filling that seed with the bad, you're gonna grow and be a bad person. But if you foster that seed in the right way, then you can shape that plant.
Yeah. Well, children they're very pliable, and they're being shaped by all the wrong things in most cases. I mean, it really seems like it's at the point where I see parents with the expectation that the school isn't there to teach their children reading, writing, and arithmetic. The school's there to raise the children and train them. And, the more the parents have given that responsibility over, the more the state has been like, yes.
And that's why I said this too in one of my burlesque gigs, where I said something about, I just can't wait to have my own kid and shape their world, and I'm going to homeschool them and teach them the ways of the world myself. I mean, obviously not forever I'm going to homeschool, but when they're in their early years, yes. I was a math tutor. I was going to be a math teacher growing up. I could absolutely homeschool, and I would not trust these young educators with my young children. That would be absolutely crazy. And then I would let them acclimate into normal school and social settings with their own mindset that I've created for them. But the other burlesque dancers were looking at me like I was crazy trying to brainwash my own children, and I'm just like, all right, never mind. Like, I just can't even talk to you about this stuff. Like,
I mean, and meanwhile, it's like, that's what the schools are doing. The schools will be like, all right, you have to do a book report, pick from these 10 pre-approved books. Yeah. Instead of, I imagine a homeschooling parent, they would be like, all right, you have to do a book report, pick the book. Whatever, it just has to be this long or on this sort of level, or all of it's, I've seen teachers saying that Shakespeare is gone, and
I mean, there's also no limits to how much you can teach. I mean, these schools, they have to stick to a certain curriculum, and you can't deviate from that. As an educator, I mean, that's why I didn't even go into teaching, because I believe teaching is kind of like Socrates and Plato, and more of a like well-rounded ways of the world, not just this is my one subject.
Yeah.
This is the only thing I can talk to you about. Like, I want to show you how that's applicable in the real world. Maybe nothing to do with math, but instill you with a little bit of value at one point. You learned that from me. You noticed, Miss Markota did something that instilled a certain value in me that I kept with, you know, and I wouldn't be allowed to do those things.
Yeah, part of it's the, I think it's the education system. You know, people draw parallels where it's like very much, I mean, the schools are modeled after prisons, basically. You
Yeah.
know, the only difference is the bars on the window and the ringing bells and, you know, the shuffling around. But it's also modeled after the way businesses and manufacturing were, where it's very compartmentalized, you know. When you're over here, you do this on the
Yep.
conveyor belt. When you're over
Yep.
there, you do this.
Remember
And
this and spit it out for the test.
yeah, I can't function like that. It's so hard for me. And there's so many things that I am passionate about, and I love learning. Like, since being out of school, I've done more
Me
online
too.
classes and all sorts
Me
of
too. I read more.
accreditation stuff.
Yeah, I read way more. I mean, the whole point is that they're all supposed to fit together and to help you understand things and the concepts of the ways of the world. They're not really these separate subjects. And it wasn't always taught that way. I mean, people used to, like I'm saying, the Socrates and Plato, it was actually just wealthy, educated men had their children, families had their children go to study under these wise men. It wasn't just general population is entitled to this brainwashing,
Yeah.
indoctrinating thing. It was no, no, no. These few people had the privilege to learn under wise men and learn the ways of the world and contribute to society through learning under them.
Well, I always think it's very telling if you've ever seen any of the things where it's like the top richest high school dropouts or, you know, whatever, college dropouts. And if you look, it's like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, it's all the people who have really molded
Einstein.
the world. Yeah, the world that we all take place and operate within. None of them have diplomas, but everyone who works for them does. And it just, it shows you.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I
What?
just got excited. The left loves to throw their diploma in someone's face because a lot of the right tends to see how the brainwashing is happening and they don't finish. I didn't finish. And they find other ways to be successful in the world and learn. And the left loves to throw a diploma in their face. How funny is it how things change? In the past, that would be a very unliberal thing to do.
Yeah. Well, that was my thing with, you know, going to school for music, where I was like, you know, it was right at the time where instead of needing a room full of gear and boards and mixers, everything just came into the laptop and a few little USB hookups. And I'm like, all right, I could spend thousands of dollars putting myself into school, or I could just buy the equipment and get to work. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm just going to buy the stuff and figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's
You're funny.
it's so true. I mean, I look at where I have friends who are like a year younger than me. It's like, all right, now you've been through 8 years at Berkeley. What have you done? And they're like, oh, well, I wrote a musical for my senior thesis. And I'm like, oh, I've produced 20 some odd albums, a few solo records. I have a record label. Do you want me to put you out? And they're like, oh.
But you wouldn't know how to file a LLC form.
Well, here's the one thing about those. I, for years, have had friends of mine go to me and be like, you should file a DBA, you should file this. And I mean, friends of mine who put on shows, they have LLCs. And it makes sense if you're putting on shows, because God forbid something goes wrong. But I never did any of that, because on my taxes, I can file as a musician and write off everything anyway. And I'm like, if I set my label up as a business, I'm just going to complicate my taxes. I don't make enough from it that it's worth doing. And there's also, I've seen it where people have, you can set up a record label and almost anything actually as a nonprofit, where it's like you basically set up the label as the nonprofit, and all of the money can then just go to the artist and covering costs of operating. And it seems shady when people hear you say,
those are all details of the real world that they don't hurt. I mean, maybe, I don't know, in some class they'll teach you that, but it is really nothing like experience in the real world. I know so many people think that they're top dog in their class, in their art class, and they're so great. It's like, that's great, but the real world is out there and no one cares.
Well, I always think it's funny when you have people who it's like, yeah, they'll be top dog in their art class because they're only dealing with one critic, the teacher. Yeah. And then it's like, then you get out into the real world and you have to perform for the masses. And
you have to compete with others.
Yeah. With everyone else.
With money involved.
Yeah, it just doesn't pan out. But, one of the things, though, I think is very interesting, I've been seeing, partly because stuff I'm doing interviews with, there are a lot of people, especially in the music industry, who are trying to revolutionize it, as we were talking about the need for a new culture. I have interviews lined up next week with people who are, like, trying to do things with music and Bitcoin and make it where you can put yourself out there like an IPO, basically, and people can invest in you and trade you, I guess.
Yeah, I want to bring more conservative points of views through the arts.
That's what needs to be done.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's a lot of TV shows and things with a lot of liberal biases, and it would be cool to have, I mean, for example, I'm a fan of, you can look this up sometime, Earl Nightingale. He's from the 50s, and he just has this formula for success. It's like a 19-minute radio thing on YouTube. And just, there's nothing blatantly conservative about it other than the fact of instilling certain values of hard work and how to approach the day and how to view life and things that are in a more conservative twist with our ideals that are actually really good quality stuff for people that would really motivate one instead of feel victimized. So it would be really cool to have those types of ideals slowly inserted into a really interesting dynamic and an entertaining show. I think that would be really important.
I know one idea I had gotten, and I get all these ideas for different apps, and I know nothing about how to make an app, but I have like a friend who claims he knows, so I've been trying to brainstorm all of it with him. I got this idea, again, because there's so many beautiful conservative women. I was like, all right, what we need to do is we need to propagandize ourselves, basically. Now, I get all these little apps for my computer where I get like a new NASA wallpaper every day, or, you know, some picture of some corner of the world or something, and I'm like, well, what if we had an app where every day you got a new picture of a beautiful conservative woman with one of their amazing quotes, and, you know, just sold it for 99 cents or whatever, and just every day, I mean, you're essentially propagandizing yourself, but it's with a point of view that isn't often represented, and, you know, sex sells, so adding a beautiful woman and their beautiful mind together, and of course you could do it with guys as well. You could, you know, make one where it's pictures of Crowder or Milo and quotes of theirs and stuff, because I see all the little memes people will put up and post on Facebook with a picture of them and a quote, and it's like, just compile it into an app and make it so every day a different one pops up, and there you go.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we need our own, and it's happening. That's what the alt-right is really exciting, because we're just hitting the social justice warriors right back with some real hilarious shit, right? And it's nothing better than facts in your face. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny to just slap people in the face with facts and just be hilarious about it.
You know, it's really bad, though, that now I have so much respect for Ben Shapiro, but whenever I hear the phrase alt-right, all I do is think of him whining now about... I feel so bad for him.
I know there's like parts of it that can get crazy and anti-Semitic and stuff, but for the most part I feel like Ben Shapiro is part of the alt-right, and I would like to include him in that. Any sort of race or religion or gender is included for me in the alt-right, as long as you hate social justice warriors.
Yeah, it's you know, he got stuck on the never Trump thing, and
I know. I thought I saw him endorse him one time, but
I mean, he gives very down the middle analysis where he'll be like, you know, I like this, I don't like this, but I'll tell you, and I interact with some people who are like this. For real, Ted Cruz is not in the race. Just drop it.
Yeah.
Drop it, everyone. Like,
Just drop it, Ben. Just drop it. Just
I,
go Trump. Come
I
on,
mean,
just do it.
I've even
The
had
thing is, I hate
conservatives be like,
yeah.
talk about how much they hate Trump. Oh, he's a hypocrite because his wife posted a porn picture, and or the pictures of his wife, and then he came out and there was this headline: Trump wants to ban porn. And then if you look at it, it's like, oh, he made a promise to a group that he was going to enact the laws. That's all he's ever said is, oh, we have laws and no one's enacting them. Let me enact the immigration laws. Let me enact the laws against bestiality and pedophilia porn. And next thing you know, that goes to Trump wants to ban porn. Look at his wife naked. He's such a hypocrite. And it's like, really? You're putting the picture of her standing there naked. She's a fucking model. That's what models do.
Yeah.
In the same category as bestiality? Really?
And it's the same category. Was it really porn, or was it just her doing a nude shoot?
It was her doing a nude shoot.
Okay, so what does that have to do with porn? See, that's what irritates me, because people do the same shit with me.
You're right.
Where doing what I do, I will show my body in revealing ways, but to me, I'm doing it like you walk into the Metropolitan Museum of Art and you're seeing these ancient Greek sculptures going like this. This is literally what I do in a costume, and I'm not twerking. I'm not showing my nipples or my vagina.
Or being penetrated by
being
something.
Sexualized. I'm not being. There's no males getting off around me. I'm not getting off. I don't know what people think this has anything to do with porn at all. It's so insulting.
You're right. I didn't even think about that. Like the pictures, you're right. There's no penetration. I mean, there is one or two of it's like her and another girl, and they're just kind of like next to each other, like almost hugging, but it's not even groping. It's not.
In the fashion world, I still see that in fashion. It depends. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sitting there defending it. I actually don't know enough about the actual shoot and what was going on with her, but I do know she is a model and she's very beautiful, and I don't see Trump seriously going as president with a porn star wife. If she was a model and she did that, open up a European fashion magazine.
Well, that's the other thing. She is European.
Girls like this.
And she is European. That's the other thing, where it's like there's a whole cultural difference where they're
Open up a Vogue Italia magazine. You'll see tits. Calm down.
And the other thing, though, that surprised me is Obama's mom did the same thing, and the media's never mentioned it. Yeah, look her up. She's beautiful. She's like a Katy Perry of her time.
She's like a white lady.
Yeah, she looks like a Katy Perry type thing. But yeah, just type in Obama's mom porn.
Blast that giant.
But here's why.
Photos, putting the word next.
It's who the photographer was. The photographer was Frank Marshall Davis, who was a communist Soviet propagandist, and he put out this book, and her pictures were in it, and a lot of people think that that's Obama's real father, and that's why there's all the birther Kenya. That was a side story to get everyone looking in the wrong direction. His real father was in Hawaii. It was Frank Marshall Davis. In his book, Dreams of My Real Father, he says he would spend the summers at Frank's house. So we know this communist Soviet propagandist influenced him. But yeah, mom did porn, and no one knows about it. No one's mentioned it. Same thing, though, as Melania or Melina or whatever her name is. Melania, yeah. But the media never mentions it. What do you think about the I have to say, it's so funny with this election that it really shows you Hillary is such a bad candidate that the Democratic Party is cannibalizing itself. Have you noticed that with the leaks and, the DNC staffer got shot because he leaked the stuff? The leaks are coming from within the party. It's not the Russians. The Democrats are destroying themselves in an attempt to bring down Hillary.
I see that and I feel that, but I think there are still a lot of liberals that are in denial about that. And it's just funny how they love to gloss over and just kind of go, let me patch that up and gonna ignore that. Oh, look at what Trump said.
Well, you
So
had that with
it's
the FBI's refusal to indict Hillary, and the funniest thing is all the conservatives were like, "Wait, this FBI guy just came out and said she's an awful person, she's horrible, she's a liar, she's a cheat. We're not going to indict her, but if anyone else did this, they would be arrested." And
yeah,
all the liberals heard was, "They're not indicting her. There's nothing
yeah,
there.
yeah,
She didn't do anything."
yep.
And it's like,
It's mind-boggling how you can defend. I don't know. It makes no sense at this point. It's just a pride, you know. I know it sucks to see everything that you fought for is like fucked up and wrong, and it's a really crushed to the ego. But come on,
well,
come.
that's the thing with liberals. They have this mentality, and this probably ties into the class envy part, where it's like, welfare and things like that. We look at it and we say, this isn't working. Like, we need to scrap it and come up
Yep.
with a new plan. Their idea is like, if we just go a little bit further, a little bit faster in this wrong direction, we might end up at the right place. Just throw
Yeah.
more money at it. We just need more money.
Oh my God, throwing more money at things doesn't fix any problem.
No, it just makes it bigger. It makes it
You
a more
need to know
expensive.
what to do with the money. There's a different problem. There's a different route to a problem other than money. I mean, even me, I know how to fix it. There's a really great audiobook too that I listen on YouTube. It's The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't know if you've ever listened to that. It's really great. And they talk about the same thing, about how to create wealth. And I get it. I mentally get it. I want to be rich. I don't hate the rich. I want to be rich. I'm trying to figure it out. And but that's not you can't just throw money at something. You have to know what to do with the money, and it's hard to do it.
Well, that's why I took my like financial stocks and investment course, because I'm like, okay, everyone thinks, oh, these people on Wall Street, they're just moving around money, this and that. It's like, okay, I could be bitter and I could just sit by and point the finger, or I could get in the game and make some money. And especially when you have real simple things going on, like anytime anyone introduces a diversity thing or anything like that, plummet. So all you got to do is just sell. Like, I wish I had some money when Milo got banned from Twitter, because I would have been selling Twitter stock like crazy, and I would have profited because they plummeted. That's all it is. You're not buying or selling anything. You're betting it's going to go up or down, and that's
fun. And when you have a mind like us, you see things happening, man. You could bet. It's fun.
Yeah, and it's rewarding. It pays off very well.
I want to get involved in real estate because I'm interested in passive, passive, and I want to own and I want to rent, and I'm just gonna collect money.
That's what I want to do. That's my next course, the real estate license.
Yeah,
I have like 2 classes I'm signed up for, the real estate one and a public relations one, because I think that would just be good general knowledge to have as far as with marketing.
I just want to invest that money. I mean, you need capital and stuff like that. But again, that's where it's a game. So now I'm sitting here going, okay, I need capital. Well, I've created a business doing what I do with the performing, and I have resources, I have clients, I have means. Let me market myself, let me do all the proper back end and hustle. No one's going to go out of their way to contact me. Sometimes it happens, but for the most part, you have to get yourself out there. And
well, and the other thing too is there are people with money to spend who will invest.
Exactly.
The same way we were talking about college and scholarships and finding the money for that. You can find money for your ideas. I mean, I had this idea at one point to build like a solar-powered, straw bale, all alternative building, zero energy concert hall. So I came up with the ideas. Some of my friends were like, oh, don't put this out. People will steal the idea. What about this? What about that? And I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to do it. If someone else steals it, good for them. And next thing I know, though, I didn't have anyone offering me money, but I had people offering me land left and right, being like, oh, I got 400 acres in Texas. If you want to build it down here, here you go. I'll help. I have the equipment. And I'm like, okay, I just need to get up the capital for the rest.
Yeah, make things happen, and it's not going to be just an easy roadmap. It's going to be figuring out what the map is.
Well, you know, liberals too, I think the thing is they're sold on an easy roadmap. They're told, go to school. Well, they're basically born into school. That's how I see it, because you don't remember much of, like, when you're 1 to 5 or anything like that.
Yeah, just remember school.
You just remember school. So you're basically born into school, and then you're told, do well here, and everything will be fine. And it's not that simple, especially not if you want to work for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing in school that helps. I mean, I at least had a good economics teacher who taught me how to do my own taxes, but that was like the only useful day of the whole 12 years.
I never got that.
Yeah. And there was also a really interesting lesson on supply and demand where we all walked in, and on the chalkboard it just said heroin with 2 arrows pointing up. And he was like, I'm going to teach you supply and demand with the one exception. And he said it was the one exception, but then he went on and he was like, you know, when people get hooked, you can limit the supply and up the price. And, like, just gave this whole analogy of how, like, I guarantee you, like, there were a handful of kids that left that day and were like, oh, I know what business I'm getting into.
Wow, that's
I'm
like a good teacher,
going to the streets.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Only in Poughkeepsie do you get an economics lesson.
Yes, that was Poughkeepsie. Okay,
of course.
figures.
Yeah, economics lesson in dope dealing.
That figures.
Funniest thing.
All right, well, I have to go to work tonight, actually, so I'm going to have to get ready soon.
Okay. Well, we should do this again sometime.
Yeah, let me know anytime.
Okay, well, I have all next week off from work, so we'll find some time and make it happen.
I perform every night, but I go in, I leave for work at 11 every night, so I'm free during the days.
Okay. So yeah, we'll figure out some daytime.
Awesome.
All right, well, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Yes.
I'll talk to you later.
Look forward to it, and keep me posted on your edit.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.